Let me ask you this: how often? Let's just assume that the injury is in the elbow,
Okay.
and let's say tennis elbow.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lateral epicondyle.
Yep.
What are the chances? And I'll explain why I'm asking this. What are the chances that this could be coming from a postural issue?
Yeah.
Or just simply something's wrong with the anatomical position of the upper arm head, the humeral head. Like, how often have you seen where if someone is internally rotated, or they have slouchy, shoulders, or scapular winging?
Sure.
How often do you see that as a contributing factor to a tennis elbow style
pain right there?
Yeah.
First of all, you doing okay with this so far?
Absolutely.
All right,
yes.
great. So we'll let that marinate a little bit longer. But just like you said, it happens more frequently than not, I think. So let's say, for example, at the lateral elbow here, we have the lateral epicondyle here, the radial head, which comes right along here just underneath that, and this extensor wad that comes right here. This insertional point for this extensor tendon, the extensor carpi radialis brevis, is very small. It's like on a like a small box in through here. It's like a 5 millimeter by 5 millimeter box on the outside of the elbow. So gets a lot of torque there. It's a very short muscle, and so it gets a lot of torque. So let's say, for example, especially people that overload with biceps, a lot of those types of things, especially like strict curl guys and stuff like that, that biceps tendon inserts on this radial tuberosity, which is right there. It's just underneath that tendon.
Okay.
So if that's out of place and pulling up underneath it, when you extend your elbow to your palm down and grip, that's going to drive that radial head up underneath there and cause a lot. That's why a lot of people, when they go to reach out, turn your palm down and extend your wrist, that places that radial head right up underneath that tendon origin. Okay. So that's a big part of it. So if you're doing like maybe heavy strict curl biceps without working the antagonist or working the posterior part of things, it's really gonna pull up on that, cause some irritation. Posture, the same thing too. A lot of times, if you're thoracic spine, so from T1 to T8 or someone down there, maybe even T12, not moving very well, not flexing, extending very well and stuff like that, you're really rounded over, it's going to put more force anterior on that, and it bring that shoulder forward. So same thing too, and also with like the posterior part of your shoulder. A lot of guys, I imagine you probably could test yourself with your lat tightness, posterior shoulder capsule, and bicep tension, especially brachialis. There's a lot of tension in those. It's always dragging us forward, especially lats. They're internally rotating us all the time and pulling us forward.
Yeah.
So by mobilizing your lats, not meaning we can't still do them, but we'll mobilize them in the posterior capsule of your shoulder. So if you're having a hard time getting your hand behind your back, you can't do that. That's a lot of times your posterior, superior portion of your capsule. You mobilize that, your lat, and then mobilize your pec. I bet you a lot of times your lateral elbow pain will go away.
I totally agree. And I think you said something very important, and I don't want to glaze over it. You said something about lats contributing to the internal rotation factor, and because I know there's a lot of information out there where people say for every push you should do a pull.
Sure, yeah.
But that's not necessarily the case when you consider that the lat is also an internal rotator.
Yeah.
And then if you're loading up even more internal rotation on top of the imbalance in the pecs versus the upper back, and then the lat is pulling everything in, and then your shoulders are all forward, your biceps are tight.
Right.
All that stuff is compounding the issue and making a bunch of stuff a lot worse.
Right.
So you can't just look at it like for every push you need to do a pull, or for every push you need to do 2 pulls.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's not necessarily going to work.
Right.
The way that you think. Instead, you should look at like external rotations, abductions, things along those lines in order to get that balance back.
I think that's a huge point. Let's get these out of here now first. Let's take these out. So